Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Our senators are a joke. The traitors to the United States of America are sitting in Congress, okay, fattening their bank accounts through insider trading that ordinary Americans would go to prison for a very long time, okay? The traitors to America and Americans are the corrupt politicians who provide cover for a corrupt government that indiscriminately spies on Americans, even when they've done absolutely nothing wrong. Okay, it's disgusting to see the bipartisan agreement on this issue and the fact that they think they're so high and mighty, as if they're not traitors to the American people when they're elected to serve the best interests of the American people, but they consistently do the opposite.
If I was in Tulsi's situation and they asked me, is Edward Snowden a traitor? Easy answer. Hell no. You authorizing spying on Americans illegally, you're the traitor. You're the actual enemy. And the reason why you're so mad at Edward Snowden is because he let us know that you're the actual enemy. Because he told us what you wouldn't tell us, that you were spying in on us. That's unconstitutional, it's illegal. And then you guys afterwards said, oh yeah, we want to do it anyway. And Edward Snowden's such a bad traitor for trying to protect your constitutional rights. No, he's not. Absolute American hero. It's the senators that are the goddamn problem. And look at the Uniparty. All of a sudden they're unified. No, spy on the plebeian masses. How dare you support a whistleblower telling you to protect your constitutional rights? These guys, and by the way, if you're a Democrat, also the same thing for you. Those Democratic senators are saying, let's go spying. Yay, spy on Americans. As a left-winger, you should despise that. The people who initially said Edward Snowden was a hero were on the...
For years, the establishment has pushed the narrative that Edward Snowden is a traitor, a fugitive who endangered national security. But let's be honest, the real reason they vilify him is that he exposed their secrets. Snowden didn't betray the American people. He revealed how the US government, with bipartisan backing, was conducting an illegal mass surveillance program against its own citizens. His revelations weren't an attack on national security. They were a defense of democracy and the right to privacy. The US government, with bipartisan support, carried out an unconstitutional mass surveillance program against its own citizens, yet who was held accountable for it? Not the agencies that broke the law, not the senators who rubber-stamped it. Instead, all their fury was directed at Edward Snowden, the man who dared to tell the American people the truth. If the United States truly valued transparency and democracy, Snowden wouldn't be in exile. He'd be honored as a patriot. The real traitors are those who believe they can spy on Americans without consequence.
That Democrats suck at this so bad that we're allowing Donald Trump and Stephen Miller to run roughshod on what our government looks like.
I don't know what to root for with the Democratic Party. I don't know what their identity is anymore. I don't know what they represent. I don't know what they want to accomplish. They have no leadership whatsoever. Gretchen Whitmer recently had an interview where she was asked, is there, who's the leader of the Democratic Party? And she admitted there is no leader. Ro Khanna came on our show, admitted there's no leader. It is a leaderless party without an identity. It's aimless, unstrategic. I don't.
Okay, can I just give a piece of advice to any of those Democratic senators or congresspeople? You lead by leading. Just start leading. You don't have to get Chuck Schumer's permission. You don't have to get Hakeem Jeffries' permission. Just go on TV. Come on these shows, okay? I don't mean us, I mean everyone. Just go on the pod, go on everywhere and go, this is the Democratic agenda. And then you become the leader. Why is this so hard for you guys? What's wrong with you? Don't any of you have any goddamn sense? Don't you know a thing about politics?
No, they don't, and they don't care, okay? Together is if they are forced into real self-reflection. They have been running away from that with the help, honestly, traditionally, of people like Bakari Sellers. So if he's willing to stop doing that.
And Jake Tapper.
And Jake Tapper, yeah. So they need to accept that they've made massive mistakes Otherwise, they will continue to be an aimless, leaderless, pathetic party that is unable to be a real opposition party to Donald Trump and the Republicans, period. That's what's happening right now as we speak.
Congress has become the embodiment of corruption. What's the point anymore? Senators pad their bank accounts through insider trading. Laws are crafted to serve corporate interests, and the legislative branch is either too dysfunctional or too corrupt to truly represent the American people. It was meant to be a check on executive power, yet instead, we see them enabling it. Presidents govern by executive order, while lawmakers engage in little more than performative outrage on issues like mass surveillance. The government overreach they claim to oppose suddenly turns into a bipartisan love fest. The transcript exposes this hypocrisy in real time. Republican or Democrat, they all seem to agree that ordinary Americans should be spied on. And why wouldn't they? The more the public stays distracted, the longer they can keep profiting.
That he will in fact be voting against one of Donald Trump's nominees for his cabinet, specifically his labor secretary pick, Lori Chavez DeRaymer, because she's too pro-labor. I'm not kidding, that is what he said. So here's what he told reporters, quote, "I think she'll lose 15 Republicans and she'll get 25 Democrats. I mean, she's very pro-labor. She might get all the Democrats, who knows?" What's the point of Congress, honestly? At this point, what is the point of Congress? When everything gets legislated through executive orders, they're useless, they're useless. They actively work against the American people. So what's the point of Congress? They're not really an active check on the president. They don't legislate. This guy has more of a problem with a labor secretary pick who's pro-labor, as opposed to someone like Pete Hegseth, who has all these credible allegations against him, including allegations of mistreating women, of having issues with alcohol abuse. No problem voting in favor of that guy.
By the way,
for defense secretary. My favorite was when people were making the argument that no, she's actually not pro-labor. Because you can't ever give Trump credit for when he does something good, like nominating a pro-labor labor secretary pick. Just take the W when they come, because if you're on the left, they are going to be few and far between. Okay, so credit when credit is due, but in this case, you have Senator Rand Paul saying that he's gonna vote.
Opposed to government overreach. Now, those values have been tossed aside. The Democratic Party has become a leaderless, directionless mess. What do they even stand for anymore? Your guess is as good as mine. The transcript delivers a scathing yet accurate critique. This is a party without leadership, without vision, and without a backbone. Once upon a time, the left-wing-based championed civil liberties, supported whistleblowers like Snowden, and stood firmly against war. Now, those principles have been abandoned in favor of political expediency. Meant the party once stood against corporate exploitation, but now its leadership wavers, too afraid to take a firm stand on anything. The result? An identity crisis so deep that even its own members admit there's no real leadership. And this vacuum has consequences. The Democratic Party's weakness has allowed figures like Donald Trump to dominate the national conversation. If Democrats won't lead, someone else will. And right now, that void is being filled by right-wing populism, which thrives on every failure of the establishment.
Out that whole thing, President Donald Trump is now outright calling for all Palestinians to be removed from the Gaza Strip and essentially dumped into other Arab countries. Trump also didn't seem to care about the peace and safety of Palestinians when he himself ended Biden's pause on sending 2,000-pound bombs to the Israelis to essentially terrorize the Palestinians with. So Trump was asked about why he lifted the ban on those bombs, or the pause on sending those bombs to Israel, and he said, because they bought them.
Except they didn't. We bought it for them. The mainstream media is such an unbelievable joke, because they'll write in all their stories, Israel has bought these weapons, and they never mention that we paid for them buying the weapons with American taxpayer money. I mean, what a joke. Israel isn't buying anything. Israel's using all of our money. They've taken over $300 billion from us. And if you're an American who loves Trump and you think you're America first, no, brother, Trump's America second, okay? So first Israel, and when this war starts, they'll want another $300 billion, and they'll make you pay it like a dog. So the Donald Trump, the dog walk has begun, okay? Netanyahu is taking him around the park. So now he's like, well, genocide and war sounds like a good idea. Hey, let's get waterfront property for my crooked son-in-law, who already took $2 billion off the Saudis, right? So this is the kind of crook that Jared Kushner is. His father was a crook. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. There are a bunch of criminals in this family, and all they want to do is help Israel steal this land. So I told you the ceasefire was fake. Netanyahu said in Hebrew, oh yeah, we don't intend to honor the ceasefire. The minute we want to, we're going to restart bombing them. He said it again today. And 90-day freeze on all foreign aid, except of course Israel, beloved Israel. Walk around the park, Donald. Walk around the park. At least we know your own, and you're a politician like all
their land, a move that echoes some of history's darkest chapters. The transcript lays it out bluntly. Despite all the America First rhetoric, Trump's foreign policy, especially in the Middle East, has consistently put America second. Billions in taxpayer dollars continue flowing into military aid for Israel, while US politicians refuse to acknowledge the reality of occupation and civilian suffering. Even worse, Trump openly suggested the forced removal of Palestinians, an idea that not only disregards international law but also fuels further instability. To do so, Trump's stance on Gaza, essentially advocating for ethnic cleansing, is appalling, but let's not pretend this is exclusive to him. The US has long been Israel's blank check, no matter which party holds the White House. The transcript nails this point. Both Democrats and Republicans maintain unwavering support, while the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge that Israel is being armed with American taxpayer money. The American people aren't being told the full truth, because once again, transparency isn't in the interest of the political establishment.
No doubt that he was ousted. First of all, this guy was a tweeting maniac up until and through his Zach Morris rant. It's insane what this guy said.
It is. Let me actually read it to everyone, because I just found it so insulting toward American workers. So he said, and this is what got him in trouble, our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. So in other words, telling Americans, your culture is all wrong, you're lazy, and we have no choice but to bring in foreign workers because otherwise nothing would get done. So Charlemagne asked what Ramaswamy thought about the reaction, especially from the right, to his post. Let's hear what he had to say. Nah, he's done. He's done. I had not seen that. Victimhood? Okay, look. No, that's gonna set my ass off. Are you kidding me right now? Victimhood? So explain to me how American workers, okay, we're talking about engineers, high-skilled workers who took their asses to four-year institutions, took out a ton of debt in order to get that degree so they qualify for these jobs. Explain to me how it's victimhood to call out the unfairness of this system when Silicon Valley CEOs would rather import foreign workers, undercutting American workers in order to save money on labor, because that's what's happening. How is it victimhood to call that out? Man, he is. You know what? I commend MAGA for pushing him out. I do. And here's the other thing about Vivek Ramaswamy. He's always rubbed me the wrong way, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was about him. And it's the inauthentic nature of everything that comes out of his mouth. He's so insincere, he's so inauthentic, it's so gross. So you know what? I bask in the fact that he has been pushed out of MAGA. And like the idea that he's running for
markets that benefit big business, while the Democratic establishment hides behind diversity rhetoric to justify policies that undermine American workers. The transcript makes it clear. Both parties are complicit in the war on the working class. Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and their political allies continue importing cheaper foreign labor under the guise of meritocracy, while American workers, many of whom invested years and mountains of debt into education, are left struggling. Concerns about job displacement aren't taken seriously. Instead, they're dismissed as mere victimhood. The attack on domestic labor is fully bipartisan. Republicans push deregulation and corporate-friendly policies, while Democrats provide cover with empty platitudes. Cheap labor under the pretense of diversity and inclusion. The result? A race to the bottom. Corporations win, and American workers lose. And when people speak up, they're dismissed as whiners engaging in victimhood. The transcript brilliantly exposes the absurdity of this narrative. Calling out exploitation isn't playing the victim, it's standing up for fairness. Yet, the very politicians who claim to fight for working families are the ones selling them out.